G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life, and today we're going to be restoring another mighty Honda Jazz. The last one I restored was a 2006 facelift 1.3 manual. It was bright yellow, and despite the Repco special hubcaps, of which this one isn't really a whole lot better, the drive was sublime. Short gears with a clutch and shifter linkage so tight you could slam through gears faster than a dual clutch, with a zingy 1.3 litre engine and phenomenal boot space. I absolutely loved it. This one, as you will now see, has got a number of issues, not least of which is the fact it has the wrong transmission. Yes, this one has the infamous CVT transmission. The way it works, and in turn why it's so bad, is that compared with a normal CVT, which will have a torque converter to apply a continuous and smooth flow of torque to the front wheels, this one has a starter clutch. So it takes off jerkily like a manual, but then once you're moving, you get to enjoy the sonorous racket of a single cam 4-cylinder engine paired with a moped transmission. That's a lot of noise and not a lot of forward progress. While not an inherently unreliable transmission, it does have a unique quirk where if you neglect to change the transmission fluid, the starter clutch will start to shudder on takeoff, making it rather uncomfortable for yourself and your passengers. There tends to be three main fixes for it. One is to change the transmission fluid. The second is to use an additive. My dad, when he had a Honda Fit like this, used to add an additive to it every couple of years, which kept the shuddering at bay. Or the third option is to simply remove the vehicle from your inventory. And so today, once we get this Jazz all the same colour and fully restored to as close to its former glory as we can get it, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. We took my freshly completed BMW 330i daily driver down to Turner's in the pouring rain to collect the Jazz, and overall, aside from the door and boot, which were obviously the wrong colour, it appeared to be in pretty good shape. Annoyingly though, in the auction photos I didn't spot the sill damage down the side, which will naturally eat into some of my already small margin. Alas, with only 147,000 kilometres and 3 previous owners before myself, once we get the Jazz all the same colour and cleaned up and polished inside and out, it should be a pretty good run around for someone. The drive home fortunately went without a hitch, even though it is a CVT Jazz, far from the most inspiring vehicle to drive. Mechanically, there's nothing wrong with it. So we need to naturally get a door and a boot lid in the correct colour. It needs a warrant of fitness, as there isn't even a sticker on there anymore, and we need to fix the sill damage. But let's start off by getting the Jazz all the same colour. While up in Auckland collecting my Audi TT you saw a couple of weeks ago, I also went to pick apart and got a Jazz rear door in the correct colour. To my amazement, it fit in the TT boot with ease, so with the door sorted, I went to pick apart in Wellington once I got home and got a boot lid in the correct colour also. And so, with the panels acquired, I undid the 4 bolts holding on the hinge, the 2 bolts holding on the door stopper, and the wiring plug to take the old dark blue door off. I then removed the door card and started dismantling the window regulator, and with the old door gutted, I installed the window and regulator in the new correct colour door, reattached the door card and bolted everything back together. Then I pulled apart the boot trim to undo the rear hatch wiring harness. With that out of the way, I could undo the 4 bolts on the hinges and 4 bolts on the gas struts to take the tailgate off. I removed the boot lid cover and swapped over the rear wiper motor and rewired the plug for the high stop light that someone had annoyingly cut off. With all the lights plugged in and working and the new hatch installed, the Jazz was finally all one colour again. Then I set to work improving the dents on the sill. I bought a dent puller on Temu, which was supposed to work by hot gluing a small plastic piece to the panel and then pulling it out until the glue snapped. Annoyingly though, this didn't work as the glue just wasn't strong enough. So I used a more hoary method by drilling some holes and screwing a small screw with a washer on the end into each hole, and then pulling on that with the dent puller. This was far more effective, and while not perfect, I felt with a bit of bog it would at least be significantly improved. Hopefully enough to pass a warrant of fitness anyway. After bogging, sanding and repainting it, I decided that was about as good as it was going to get, especially given I'm far from an expert panel beater. So I finished off by giving the Jazz a service, as while the transmission fluid was fine, the engine oil was black and quite low. After replacing the oil with some fresh 5W30 and changing the filter, I took it down to Honda for a warrant of fitness. Annoyingly though, it failed. Miserably. There is a lengthy list of things that are wrong with it. The things I could see that I knew about was that the headlights were cloudy and the wipers need to be replaced, but there was a lot of things underneath the car that are very much wrong. Both the front tyres are worn out, as are both the front brake pads. There is corrosion on the radiator support, the compliance bushes are worn out at the front, as are the front strut mounts, and one of the rear wheel bearings apparently is worn out too. Well, it's been a week and I've ordered many things for the Honda Jazz. While waiting for these parts to arrive, I got a couple of used front tyres installed for a whopping $90, and then for $400 I got some new control arms, brake pads, compliance bushes, and a new rear wheel bearing. It was $40 for this paint-matched spray can to respray the sill, and $120 for an oil and filter to do a service. So now let's get to work getting all of these parts installed, and hopefully this time around the Jazz will pass a Warrant of Fitness.
I began by replacing the wheel bearing, which fortunately wasn't especially difficult. You just remove the wheel, brake drum and hub bolt, and then slide the new bearing on and put everything back together. I sorted out the radiator support by spraying rust converter everywhere and then repainting it. I then pulled apart the front suspension and replaced both of the rubber strut mounts by taking off the wheel and brake rotor and undoing the 2 bolts at the bottom and 1 at the top of the struts. Unfortunately, no matter how hard I smashed the lower ball joints, they just did not want to come out. So I got Honda to install the lower control arms and brake pads, and as I'd already polished the headlights and got the front tyres installed, finally, after thousands of dollars in parts, the Jazz passed a Warrant of Fitness and was ready to be washed and vacuumed. After scrubbing the entire car down, getting rid of all of the filth in the door jambs and all over the exterior, I clay-barred all of the panels and dried the car off. Frankly, polishing a 20-year-old Honda Jazz that at most might be worth $4,000 is a bit pointless, but I did target a few particularly bad areas to tidy it up as best I could. After a lick of tyre shine, the exterior was looking heaps better than when I first picked it up, so I set to work vacuuming all of the carpets, wiping down the plastics inside, and cleaning the filthy windows. And finally, after months of chipping away and significantly more money spent on it than I planned, the Jazz was done.
This car is the primary reason why in the final M135i video I posted a couple of weeks ago I said that I'll no longer be restoring cars here on the channel. I bought this Jazz for just $2,500, which given the case is definitely under market value. And had I been correct in assuming all it needed was a boot and a door, sill damage repair, a simple headlight polish and a Warrant of Fitness, it would have owed me around $2,800 with a likely sale price around $3,500 to $4,000. However, because it needed all of that and 2 lower arms, 2 wheel bearings, 2 tyres, front pads, strut mounts, wipers, a wheel alignment, and the labour to install all of the parts that I couldn't do myself, it now owes me basically what the car's worth. Meaning not only am I going to lose money on the car itself, but I'll have wasted hours and hours of my time with no financial benefit. Last year things were definitely better. I got into a good rhythm where if I waited for the right stuff to come up on Facebook Marketplace or Turner's auctions like the Golf GTI, the Commodore, Camry, Legacy, Atenza, Accord, BRZ, Tita and Jazz, I could buy it, fix a few things, make an interesting video for you guys and profit between $1,000 and $3,000 off of the sale to put food on the table. But this year it seems like my freshly Warrant of Fitness, fully detailed cars inside and out just get lowballed for weeks and eventually I have to take a crappy offer and accept I'm going to make next to nothing on it. Now I admit that some of that is on me. I should have checked out this Jazz more thoroughly along with cars like the Falcon, the Excella and the Inspire. All those cars I overestimated how much they'd be worth to sell and underestimated how much it would cost to fix them up. And if I could go back, I just wouldn't have bought them at all, even if the Falcon and Inspire made for quite interesting and funny videos. You ready to feel the power? 61 kilowatt. Oh, it is not a fast car. So basically I've come to the conclusion that either I need to get better at flipping cars or I just need to stick with what I do best, and that is making videos. While a lot of my car flipping videos have done quite well, like the VF and ZB Commodore, the BRZ, the Accord, Inspire and 330i, the videos that have really grown the channel are my fully scripted, interesting question videos. Stuff like the video with the VR engines, turbo versus NA, the IS500 review, why you should buy a diesel, race car versus road car, and tuning a cheap car versus buying a faster one. That's the type of content that I do best, and I can make it with cars that I already have, rather than having to buy something and taking all the risk of trying to make money on it when the time comes to sell it again. So that's what I'm going to do. The Jazz is complete. I have a couple more cars still sitting in the wings waiting to be restored, but once they're done, unless a really good deal comes up, I'm not exactly going to be actively searching for more cars to restore on the channel. But if you'd like to see all of the cars I've restored in the past that are a lot more interesting than this humble Honda Jazz, then click on the playlist popping up right about now, and I will look forward to seeing you again next time.